Some stories don't just haunt your mind, they cling to you like a shadow you can't escape. They follow you, growing darker the more you try to push them away. And tonight, I'm going to tell you one of those stories. A story about something that seems harmless at first, but don't be fooled by its innocent appearance, because sometimes the most terrifying things are the ones that hide in plain sight. It's the story of Annabelle, the doll. Maybe you've seen the movies, maybe you've heard the name whispered in the dark. But what you probably don't know is that the real Annabelle is far more disturbing than anything Hollywood could create. This isn't just some scary movie plot. This is something much worse, because it really happened. Let me take you back to the early 1970s. The story begins with a young woman named Donna, or Deidre, depending on the version you hear. Donna was a nursing student living in a small apartment with a roommate, Angie. Just two young women going about their lives, until Donna's mother gave her an unexpected birthday gift, a Raggedy Ann doll. Now, a doll like that might seem like an odd gift for a 28-year-old. I mean, it's not something you'd expect, right? But back then, Raggedy Ann was a nostalgic symbol of childhood, something comforting and familiar. And that's exactly what Donna thought at first. Just a cute, harmless reminder of simpler times. But nothing about Annabelle was harmless. Not even from the beginning. It started with small things. Things you could explain away if you weren't paying attention. Donna would leave the doll on her bed in the morning, only to come home and find it sitting on the couch. At first, she thought maybe she'd moved it and just forgotten. You know how sometimes you convince yourself you've just misplaced something? That's how Donna felt at first. But that feeling didn't last long. As the days passed, Annabelle's movements became more noticeable, more deliberate. One night, Donna came home to find the doll standing, propped up against the wall. But here's the thing. Annabelle was a floppy, Raggedy Ann doll. She couldn't stand up on her own. So, how had she moved? Who had positioned her like that? Donna and Angie started to get uneasy. They would leave the doll in one room, only to find it in another. Sometimes it would be lying on the floor or slumped over in a different position entirely. And it wasn't just the movements. There were other signs that something wasn't right. Small things at first, like noises, soft rustling sounds, as if someone was quietly moving around the apartment when no one else was home. But soon, those little signs grew darker, more sinister. Donna began to find strange notes around the apartment, messages written on parchment paper in a childlike scrawl, saying things like, "Help us," or "Help Lou," Lou being Donna's fiancé. The strange part? Donna and Angie didn't own any parchment paper. There was no reason those notes should exist at all. But they did. And every time they found one, the chill in the apartment seemed to deepen. Still, they tried to brush it off, tried to convince themselves it was just a strange coincidence, or maybe even a prank. But deep down, they both knew something was wrong, something they couldn't explain. That's when they brought in the medium. They were desperate for answers, and they thought maybe, just maybe, a medium could help them make sense of what was happening. During the seance, the medium told them a story that seemed to explain everything. A young girl named Annabelle Higgins had died near the apartment complex years earlier. Her spirit, the medium claimed, had attached itself to the doll. She was lonely, lost, and drawn to Donna and Angie's kindness. It was a tragic story, and it tugged at their hearts. They felt sorry for the spirit of this little girl, trapped inside a doll, just wanting some comfort. So instead of trying to get rid of Annabelle, they invited her in. They gave her permission to stay. That was their first mistake. From the moment they allowed Annabelle to stay, the atmosphere in the apartment shifted. It was subtle at first, a feeling of unease, like they were being watched. But then things escalated. The knocking sounds started, first on the walls, then the ceiling, then the floor, always just out of reach. The apartment grew cold, even in the middle of summer. And then there were the whispers, soft, faint, barely audible. At first, Donna thought she was imagining them, but then Angie heard them too, whispered voices that seemed to come from the doll itself. Sometimes it sounded like a child. Other times, it was something darker, something much older. And that's when Lou started having the nightmares. Lou never liked Annabelle. From the very beginning, he felt like the doll was watching him, like it was aware. He told Donna to get rid of it, but she didn't listen. And soon, Lou found himself trapped in a recurring nightmare, one that felt too real to ignore. In the dream, Annabelle would crawl up onto his chest while he slept. He could feel her weight pressing down on him, feel her tiny hands around his throat. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The doll was trying to kill him. Each time, Lou would wake up in a cold sweat, gasping for air. But one night, when he woke from the dream, he wasn't just sweating, he was bleeding. 7 deep scratches ran across his chest, fresh and painful, as though something had attacked him in his sleep. But there was no one else in the room, no one but Annabelle. That was the breaking point. Donna and Angie realized they were in over their heads. Whatever was inside Annabelle, it wasn't a little girl. It wasn't something they could reason with or help. They needed real help. So they reached out to someone who had dealt with things like this before, Ed and Lorraine Warren. In 1952, Ed and Lorraine Warren established the New England Society for Psychic Research, or NESPR. Their work, delving into the unknown, assisting those tormented by spirits, hauntings, and things that defy explanation. Over the course of 4 decades, they reportedly investigated more than 10,000 cases involving supernatural entities and demonic possessions. The Warrens were renowned paranormal investigators, and if anyone could help them, it was these two. When Ed and Lorraine arrived at the apartment, they knew immediately that something was wrong. Lorraine, a gifted clairvoyant, could feel the presence inside the doll, and it wasn't a human spirit. It was something much darker, much more dangerous. Ed explained that no human spirit could possess a doll. What Donna and Angie had welcomed into their home wasn't Annabelle Higgins. It was a demonic entity. It had used the guise of a child to manipulate them, to gain their trust. But its true goal was far more sinister. It wanted to possess, to harm, to destroy. There needed to be an exorcism. Ed Warren was one of the few individuals within the Catholic Church granted the authority to perform that ritual. Together, he and Lorraine conducted a cleansing, ridding the apartment, the nurses, and their partners of Annabelle's dark presence. But Annabelle herself, she couldn't be left behind. They knew the doll was too dangerous, too powerful to leave in Donna's care. So they took her with them. But even in their custody, Annabelle remained a threat. Ed and Lorraine brought Annabelle to their occult museum, where they stored all the cursed and dangerous objects they had collected over the years. The doll was placed inside a specially built glass case, sealed with protective prayers and blessed by a priest. But even behind glass, Annabelle's influence didn't fade. There were stories of visitors to the museum who mocked the doll, who didn't take her seriously. One man, in particular, laughed at Annabelle, daring her to do something to him. He and his girlfriend left the museum on their motorcycle, still joking about the doll. Hours later, they crashed into a tree. The man was killed instantly. His girlfriend survived, but she later revealed that he had been laughing about Annabelle just before the accident. And the stories don't stop there. Priests who have visited the museum have felt an overwhelming sense of dread when standing near Annabelle's case. Some have refused to even look at her. And one priest, who scoffed at the warnings, picked up the doll and threw her across the room, declaring that God is more powerful than any demon. Hours later, that same priest was involved in a serious car accident. He survived, but barely. Annabelle remains in the Warrens Museum to this day, locked inside her case, but still watching, waiting. There are some who say she is the most dangerous object in the museum. And after hearing her story, it's hard to argue with that. There's a lot of speculation around the Warrens and their life, and many call them fakes and grifters. But one thing is for sure, there are real people who sense bad things around this doll. Are they all in on it too? Is Annabelle just a creepy doll with a few tall tales attached to her? Or is there something darker at play? Something that defies explanation? Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain. Annabelle's story is not one to be taken lightly. And if you ever find yourself face to face with an old doll, sitting quietly in a corner, remember, not everything that looks innocent truly is.
This is Shaded Girl. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.